Hi, good evening. Now for something a little different. I'm going to talk about taxes. Well, actually, I'm going to talk about the tax havens. I was sent some information by a local person, Kimberly Merrens from Richmond. She does some research into Williams's filing with the SEC. And she has a quote, I quote here. We are registered with the IRS as a tax shelter, following a tax shelter registration. And there is one of their companies called Williams Global Energy, and it is in the Cayman Islands. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it should, because in fact, one of the persons who is running for president actually has a box in the Cayman Islands, box 364, containing some $20-odd million. Now, none of this is illegal, strictly speaking. However, it is a tax shelter. It's an offshore tax shelter. What I'd now like to talk about is a very interesting issue of onshore tax shelter. I'm going to quote from an article in the August edition of Vanity Fair. It is almost unknown to most Americans. The United States has turned itself into a giant tax haven for foreigners. Just as the memo suggested, federal and state laws have been deliberately shaped to give foreigners special tax exemptions unavailable to Americans, thus financial secrecy and exemptions from regulatory restraints. Quoting Senator Carl Levin, we have criticized offshore tax havens for their secrecy and lack of transparency, he said. But look what is going on in our own backyard. And what is going on in our own backyard is the following. I'm going to quote from a dispatch now by Osumu Tsukimori. That's probably mangled his name. From Reuters, dated April 27th this year, the following said. Sumitomo said it had signed a preliminary agreement with Dominion Resources that it would lead to the right to buy liquid LNG, how's that, at 5 million ton per year gas liquefaction facility to be built by Dominion at Cove Point project in Maro. And that Tokyo Gas would join Sumitomo when a formal contract was signed. Then I've underlined this. The Japanese company has added they were considering sourcing feedstock from Marcellus Shale projects in which Sumitomo is participating. That particular Japanese company is not the only foreign company participating already in Marcellus Shale. There are companies, I won't list them all here, from Japan, India, China, South Korea, and so on. So the gas already coming from the Marcellus Shale is already partially owned by foreign corporations. That may create an interesting issue when we start talking about eminent domain. Then, let me see what's next on this wonderful list. Williams have been saying that this is all supposed to be domestic. Well, the price back on June 24th for a third in the US was $2.64. In Japan, it was $16. So the likelihood is they're in business, they're a commercial venture, and the likelihood is that it will not remain here, but it will indeed be exported. So, we're not talking about right now. There are some 10 or 11 different permits for in various stages of planning in Louisiana, Texas, Maryland, and Oregon. And if you look at Williams's pipelines, where do they all go? They all end up in Louisiana, one way or another. They're two-way, you see. They don't have to necessarily go one way. So what I would request that the Commission do is it needs to look very carefully into its employment of eminent domain, both in regard to the fact that eventually our American gas, which is partially owned by foreign companies, will be exported for profit only. And also the use, as I mentioned earlier, of transporting a pipeline where eminent domain is used to actually carry foreign-owned domestic gas. There's another questionable use of power of eminent domain. So, thank you very much for your time.